bottom part of the
You
house.
recorded how we got
Whoops.
Controlled by the floor, so all the heat comes from the floor.
Oh, radiant? That's
Yeah.
nice.
Did we
Is that
have
your
to
dad's house?
everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For you too?
Doesn't that get expensive though?
No.
I don't know, I don't think-
We installed that
It's all hot water.
It was, but it was pretty expensive, but I mean, she had a large house, but it was her heating
Okay,
was
well,
anywhere from $600 or $700 a month.
It's hot water. What?
But you got, I mean, her.
All right, we're gonna get started. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back. I'd like to kind of cover real quickly how we're going to go through this unit when we're dealing with the recordation side of things. You'll notice when we look at the page number 81, when we talk about the public recording process, all this stuff at the top of the page. Okay, you with me on the same page? You'll notice a little state map over there. I want to look specifically at certain items in here. We're going to highlight certain words on here. So a couple of things about this deal, recording documents. It's not just a way for the government to make a couple, 3 pennies off of you recording a marriage license, birth certificate, death certificate, the sale of a house. You see, what they want to do is record documents for a variety of reasons. Now here's one of the problems when we saw this, a number of years ago. The problem was we didn't record documents 65 years ago. When we're looking at the recordation system, we want to centralize it. Where do we want to centralize it, team? Do we want to do it in the city, county, or state? County. Always the county. So when we're dealing with this county thing is going to say, well, we want to record documents. We want you to come in here and record things like birth certificates, marriage licenses, sales of houses, so that way we know who's doing what, where, when, how. Now the issue that we're facing, and I want to read from your books what it states over here in this recording process. Watch what it states. The policies and the procedures are established, please highlight this, by state law. Highlight that very first sentence. The policies and procedures are established by state law. Now, when we go into the county to record something, will there be a difference in the resources at like a Hennepin County in Minneapolis? Will there be a difference in that one versus the county that we'd have in Itasca with Grand Rapids? Would there be a difference in things like computers and scanners and faxes that they have? The state says this is what we want you to do. How you do it is up to your individual county. So David, when you're up in Itasca County, when you show up, and this, I swear to goodness, was a true story. Carrie and I, my wife Carrie is from Beltrami County, which is one of the most economically depressed counties in the state, and we wanted to get her birth certificate, a copy of it. So we go up to Beltrami County, and we're walking down this marble floor, very quiet, all we hear is our footsteps, right? We look for the county recorder's office. So we go in and we find the county recorder, right? So we go into the office, we open the door, we close the door. And we get into this room, and it looked like something from the 1880s, with the bars, like the old banks used to have. And there's a guy, about 80 years old, with his feet up on the desk with a visor, sleeping. So we walk up to him, ding, we ring the bell. He said, "Oh, what's going on? May I help you?" I said, "Yes, we'd like to get a copy of my wife's birth certificate, please." "Okay, last name, when were you born?" He goes over to this thing, looked like the Dewey Decimal System, the old library card filing system. Pulls out the drawer. "How's the weather out there?" Takes out the original birth certificate, turns on the desktop photocopier, and copy, gets his embossing stamp. "That'll be $2, please." And he gave her a copy of a certified copy of her birth certificate. That was 5 years ago. And this is not ancient history. Do you think you're going to get that kind of service when you go to Ramsey County or Hennepin County?
You don't.
No, it's cattle call. Go through the velvet robes next. What do you want? Birth certificate. I was born. $3, please. It's up to the county to make the decision on how they're going to do it. Who establishes this procedure, process? City or state? State. Now the state says the following when you're dealing with this recording process. We don't care how you do it, counties, this is what you got to do. The first thing you're going to do is note the date and time of the filing of the documents. We don't care if you're using a mechanical stamping device that says date and time, or if you got the little, oh, I gotta turn the little stamping wheel, ka-chunk. We don't care, you got it one way, shape, or form, note the date and time of the filing. Give it some flavor of a recording number, A1, B2, whatever you want to call it. Then you're going to copy the document into the public record. Whether you do it photocopy, microfilm. Recently, 3 years ago in 2011, in Hennepin and Ramsey County, they discovered something called scanners on computers. They actually will scan documents now in Hennepin and Ramsey County, okay? So one way, shape, or form, copy it into the public record. If it's a sale of property, then you're gonna record it in the grantor and grantee indexes. It's a set of books, checks and balances. This person sold, this person bought, and then give back the original document, birth certificate, marriage license, deed, to the indicated party. That's all you gotta do. How you do it is up to the individual county. Make sense? Right? So the question now, oh, by the way, they want to charge you a fee to record that document. So why are they doing this? Why are they setting this process in place? It's not to make a lot of gravy. It's only $46 to record a document. It lets you post a claim. Now think back to the prospectors during the gold rush in California, and they're panning for gold. And they're going in there and they find that nugget of gold, and then they have to run down to the county and say, I own that land, because they want to get the gold out of that stream. They're posting their claim. One of the things that the system allows us to do is identify a couple things, a priority of liens against the property. You ever heard the term first mortgage, second mortgage? Oh, well, help me out. What is always the top priority lien on a property? Taxation. The property taxes. So those are always the #1 lien against the property. Then we've got the first mortgage and the second mortgage underneath it. So how do they determine who's going to get paid first? So when we look at this, government lien's always getting paid first. How do we know it's the first mortgage versus the second mortgage? The sequence is determined by the date of recording. Let's write that in, highlight that. The sequence is determined by the date of recording.
So you can't have a second mortgage unless you have a first mortgage. Or for some reason somebody didn't record the first mortgage before the second mortgage, would the sequence change?
Absolutely. Good question. I'll repeat that once they get them right.
Because remember I did an 80-10 one time.
Yep.
So.
Okay, make sure you highlighted that one. Dave's got a good question here. Thank you. One of the things we want to look at is what happens when Dave went out and now he gets a property with an 80% first mortgage, a 10% second mortgage, and you put your 10% down. What happened now is that the 80% folks didn't record their mortgage first because the sequence is determined by the date and time of recording. Oops. First mortgage company blinked. They didn't record their mortgage, and then #2 came in and recorded, the second mortgage we call that, the subordinate financing, the lower financing, and they recorded it first. Is the 10% a first mortgage or second mortgage? It's a first mortgage now, because it was recorded before the 80% mortgage. So when they're doing this, whether they're, again, doing the date and time stamping machine, the little rolling device on their stamper, irrelevant. That second mortgage, the 10%, is actually going to be recorded as the first mortgage. Now when we go to sell, the taxes have to be paid #1. That 10% mortgage gets paid next. Then the 80% mortgage gets paid. Do you think maybe the 80% folk would be a little upset that the closer didn't record the document in a timely manner? Okay, so there's going to be the function of what does the escrow agent, the closer, the attorney, all these different words meaning the person who brings the transaction to a closing, what does it allow them to do? Okay, what are they required to do? This is one of the things that they are required to do. Now, Barbie, you're going to buy a house. See, that's what you get for moving into the front row. You get to buy a house, and you're buying a house from Dave. Now, Dave decided to list his house with Wendy, like we used in our illustration earlier. And when do you put a sign in the yard, put it on the MLS, you listed it, marketing brochures, the whole McGill. Dave has it listed, Barbie's coming in with real estate agent Jamie, and you're looking at this here property, and you say, I want to buy. You make offer, you're cool with it, and you're getting, what was it, the stove? No fridge last week? Well, what are you guys going to do for a fridge?
Costs too much electricity.
Too much electricity. We're just going to put it outside, right? It's cold enough in Minnesota. That's our fridge, right? That's what I'm using right now because my fridge bummed out on me yesterday. $1,500 refrigerator lasted 2 years, 4 breakdowns. So I'm using outside as my refrigerator with Kyle. All right. I'll tell you at the break. What brand is that, he says. All right. So what happens now is that we've made the offer on the property and they've accepted it. What's going to happen is that, Dave, you're going to sign a document that gives ownership now to the buyer. Help me out. What's the document that the seller signs that gives ownership of real estate to the buyer? The deed. And the deed now, there were 4 different types of deeds that we looked at when we talked about this on Saturday morning. There was a general warranty deed, limited warranty, quitclaim deed, and a sheriff's deed. Which one is the best one for Barbie the buyer? The general warranty deed, because it has the most amount of promises that the seller is going to make to the buyer. What is the best deed for the seller to give to the buyer? The quitclaim deed. How many promises does that have in it?
1.
Not one?
None.
None. There's no guarantee that he's even saying he's the owner of the house. When he does a quitclaim, he's just signing a document that says, here you go, what I got, you got. He's making no promises that he's the owner of the property. He's making no promises against unspecified encumbrances. He's making no promises. You see how that's really good for our seller? The general warranty deed, you got the most amount of promises, and you got to go to him. If all of a sudden, Barbie, you close on this sale, and you get the rights to own the property, and we call that the estate. When you get the estate to property, and now you're sitting in at their house, and somebody shows up with their deer rifle and says, I want to hunt these 2/3 acre land because my grandpappy won hunting rights on this property many, many years ago. Help me out. What is that thing we call it when somebody has the right to use somebody else's land for a specific purpose? Okay, remember when Tim was talking about this the other day? The right to use others' land for a specific purpose. You don't own the land, but you own the right to do something on the land, to cross it, to get to the lake. An easement. So somebody has showed up and said, I have hunting rights on this land. And Barbie says, well, I didn't see that on the record. When I pulled the Carfax report, the title examination, I didn't see that there was anybody with hunting rights on this property. What Barbie's people are going to do when she's getting ready to close the sale is that they're going to look at the records and they're going to make a search for claim for the records. The recording of a document provides what we call constructive or legal notice. Please highlight that term after you're done writing it. Constructive or legal notice. The closing for the buy side is going to check the title to see if there's legal notices been made that this person has hunting rights, that that mortgage company has a mortgage, that the government taxes have been paid, that there's a mechanic who has a lien on the house. So what Barbie's people are going to do is check the records like a Carfax report when you buy a car. Make sense? Okay, just like when you're buying a car, you pull up the Carfax report. We want to know indeed that Dave C. is the owner of the house. We want to know, are the taxes paid up to date, prorated to the day of closing? We want to know, does he have a mortgage on the property that needs to be cleared? Because I don't know if you want to buy a house with his mortgage. You want to buy a house? Oh, Dave also got sued at work for sexual harassment. He lost in a court case. And they sued him. I know, you're the bad guy in this scenario. And this person sued you, and now they decided what they were going to do is put a judgment lien against his property. Okay, do you want to take ownership of his property subject to his mortgage, where you'll pay off that person that he sexually harassed at work? No, we have clouds on the title which need to be cleared. What this does is, if I was the person he was sexually harassing at work, what I would have done is I sue you, right? I go to courts. The court says, that's right, Mr. Brennan, you are indeed awarded the judgment right to claim your damages, and I give him the money. He says, I ain't got it. I put a lien against your home. Now I got a judgment lien, okay? This judgment lien, I would record it. But wait a second, we got the taxes, and Dave's got his first mortgage. He's got his second mortgage. He took some work on the property mechanics lien. Team, I'm way down here. I'm on the very bottom rung of this ladder, and I'm the last one to get paid. Do you see that sequence? I would record it to provide notice, and the sequence would be determined by when I recorded the documents. All right? See how that would protect my claim against Dave, on that joint claim. Does that make sense? Doing okay? Watch what Barbie's people will do when you're about to buy. They'll search for claims. Now, in doing a claim search, there's a couple of ways we can do this, and we're going to examine the titling way we can look up the records of the property. The public records should be checked for any recorded claim. The public records should be checked for recorded claims. Excuse me. Jamie has brought buyer into transaction. They've accepted the offer. The next step will be, you get your inspection done, all that voodoo. What she's going to do now is hire Erica. Erica, you're going to be our closer in this transaction real quickly. And Erica, the closing company, she's going to be the person that we see at the closing table. When you're buying the property, she's going to stamp, notarize all the documents. Okay. Barbie has gone out to loan officer David and said, David, I want to borrow some money. Now you're going to be the loan person that you're going to borrow the money from. We talked about the loans on Sunday night. So she filled out the mortgage application, she does all the voodoo that she do, gave you the tax returns, pay stubs, and you're going to go through that process. You hire Dave the appraiser. Dave the appraiser, it's worth $200,000. Woo, we dodged that bullet. Any work on the property?
Yeah.
Oh, we hate you. Now we got a bit of a problem because our appraiser is going to say that there needs to be work done on the property before the lender lends it, okay? Now Erica, our closer, is going to be at the closing table. Maybe our loan officer, David, is going to be at the closing too. You're buying this house for $200,000. You're selling this house for $200,000. Do we have a unilateral, forbearance, or bilateral contract? Unilateral, bilateral, or forbearance? She agrees to buy, he's agreeing to sell. Bilateral contract. We have two promises being made. Now watch what, bless you, what ends up happening is that she's buying the house for $200,000. What percent are you putting down again? 5, 10, 20? 5% down. $200,000 times 5% down. How much is she putting down? $10,000. So dude, we need to borrow $190,000 from him. Right? 190 plus your 10 equals the $200,000. That's what we're going to give you. Now, Erica, you're going to close the sale. Okay? So here's our mortgage company right here. Here's our title person in the background. Sometimes what we'll see is that the person who's closing the sale might be a licensed closer, or they are usually an attorney. So Erica, I'm going to make you the bad guy here for just a minute or two. You're the attorney in the room. Okay? So we have a lawyer in the back row there, and what the person who's closing the sale is going to do is close the sale, witness the documents being signed. Now, when we go through this, David, you're the loan person. You get to call the shots. Do you want her to bring any identification to the closing that she's who she says she is?
Yes.
Yeah, that probably would be good. So we need a driver's license. Do you want her to bring any money to the closing?
For 10% down.
Oh, 5%.
For 5%.
Okay,
10,000 down.
so you got to bring your $10,000 down. All right. What we ended up doing was when we pulled some background information on her, we found out that, oh, Barbie, you didn't pay T-Mobile. They sued you $1,172, and they put a judgment against Barbie. And they recorded all of this against Barbie. Would that show up when they pull your credit report?
Yes.
You see, that's when you search your credit report, that's what this does, is it pulls it up individually. Do you want her to bring a check for $1,172 to T-Mobile?
Definitely.
Yeah, because that might end up as a lien against the property, and that would be now a problem because we're lending $190,000 at the loan company. That $1,172 T-Mobile bill might show up as a judgment lien against. So yeah, do you want her to come to the closing dressed like a circus clown?
No.
No, he's a nice fella. All right, so he's going to call the shots as he's running the 190.